Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Bobby Washington, producer, singer, songwriter, and filmmaker, and this is my Bobby Washington vlog channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to actually make a film from beginning to end, everything you need to know, right within this one video. The first thing you want to start with, of course, is the script, the story. What's it about? Next is your casting call. You're going to need actors for this film. Could be 2 actors, could be 20, could be more. You can look in Craigslist, place ads there. You can actually ask some of your friends who may want to act, or you can go to Facebook, to some of the Facebook acting groups, and post your casting there. Now it's time for scout location. You have to actually look for your places that you want to set up your film, where you want to act at. You want to do it in a free locations, where there be like a forest, open field, your apartment, so your home, somebody else's home. Or you can use some paid locations, diners, everything works. Now you don't need a big Alexa Hollywood camera or a big red camera that's going to cost you thousands of dollars. If you can afford it, fine, but you can use your camera phone, you can use a DSLR to tell your story. It's not what you have, it's how you use it. However, there is one thing that holds true. If you want your film to look like a Hollywood film, you must shoot in 24 frames per second, because this is what the human eye can truly see. If you set your frame rates higher, something like 60 frames per second, that's more like a cell phone. It's too sharp, it's too vivid, it's too clear. More like reality. And in film, we want fantasy, not reality. 24 frames is nothing more than 24 pictures that's in one frame. Hollywood has been using 24 frames per second for many, many years. Although film is an artistic form, there are not really that many rules that apply, but there are a few. The rule of thirds is one of them. Basically, you want to put your subject, in this picture here, you see a dog as a subject. You want to put them either to the right or to the left of the screen. Never dead center, because it will look more like a snapshot rather than a motion picture or film. You see the grids? Some cameras have those grids, like the tic-tac-toe box, built in the camera to guide from, but after a while you won't need them. Another rule to definitely pay attention to is the 180-degree rule. This is where the actors are facing each other, and you actually put the camera on either the left side of the circle or the right of the side of the circle. Once you make that choice, you must stick to that choice, because if you break it, it can make the actors appear as if they're looking away from each other when they're speaking, because you flip the cameras around. Now, there are exceptions to this rule when a person wants to add tension or actually make the viewers be more disoriented. Now, shutter speed is not really a rule, but if you want your film to be buttery smooth, you want to double your frame rate. For instance, if you're shooting in 24 frames per second, you want to double your shutter to be 48. Most cameras come at 50 though, they don't have 48. So if you don't have 48, the nearest thing is 50 for your shutter. Now, it's not a rule, because if you watch the movie Born Identity, the shutter was cranked up high, so high that it was a jitter effect every time that you seen a fight scene. It's very jittery. And that was on purpose by the director. You see? So they wanted that jittery effect. But if you want a smooth effect, these are the numbers to follow right here on your screen. Double 24 is 48, 60, 120, and so forth. Now, depth of field is very important in film. It actually puts you in a dream state. It puts you out of the realistic type of television program that you watch on reality shows. You want to use depth of field sparingly, though. You don't want to overuse it in filmmaking, but when you're trying to make a subject pop out and make the background blurry, you use depth of field by increasing your aperture either to the right or decreasing it, depending on what are you trying to put in focus. Looking at the actors on the screen, it seems though they want you to focus on the actor and not the street behind them, which is very, very important. Now, if you had a walking scene and you wanted to show the area, then you wouldn't have so much blurry background. You have more of an all-focused background with the actor and talent in focus as well. So use this, again, very sparingly, but it's beautiful. To have an amazing film, you must have spectacular audio. If you have bad audio, then you have a terrible film. Basically, you need to shoot on external gear. Do not use the camera's onboard audio, because quite frankly, the onboard audio on the camera sucks. Keep it in mind, these are camera people, not audio people, not sound engineers. So you want to go with a company like Sound Device, Zoom, and get a real mixer for the field. You definitely want to invest in a shotgun mic and boom pole with a boom pole operator to hold the mic just out of frame so it doesn't get caught in the camera, but you want to capture beautiful audio from one of these beautiful mics. I would also advise investing in lapel mics, maybe 2, so you can actually put them on the talent, so if they're away from the camera, far away, you won't see any shotgun mic in your video capture and still maintain great audio. Who's ever running sound, make sure they have a great pair of headphones to hear every nuance sound on set. All the dialogue must be clear without any background noise or interference. This is very important because once it's captured, it's done. Lighting is extremely important. As you can see in this picture here, it's very flat. There's no shadows going on. There's no mystique. Everything, the light is like the house lights are on, like the lights above him in his natural home is on. There's no shaping of the light around his face. Therefore, he's not popping out at all. And it's kind of boring. As opposed to this wonderfully lit image here. One side of his face appears to be lit more than the other side. That gives you mystique. They call it film noir. You also see a practical light in the left shoulder. There's a yellow ball back there and lights above. That gives it more depth. He's also popping out from the wall because they put a blue light with some kind of cookie, some kind of pattern on the wall behind him. All that adds to depth. ISO is very important. Controlling your ISO. Right now I have it at 320. But if I go up too high, it introduces more light. Too much light sometimes. And if you're in a dark room and you're trying to bring in this artificial light, you're going to end up with a bunch of noise in your shot. So the trick is you want to keep it as low as possible. In filming, you want to go by 160, 320, 160. If you double 160, you get 320. Let's go over here again. 320 here. If you double that, you go to 640. Now me, I never go past 640. That's too much light right now because it's daytime. Right now, I'll put it down at 160. Camera movement. Camera movement. You always want to keep the camera moving unless it's something going on in the shot that you don't want to cause too much distraction. Right now there's nothing going on, so I would move this just like that. You can move it any direction. You can go that way, you can come up with a pan. Movement adds motion. That's why they call it motion picture. You want to keep the motion going. Like I said, unless you have something going on in the shot, like some fighting going on, you don't want to move it too much because it'll distract the viewer. When shooting indoors, it's important to pull the furniture away where the talent's going to be sitting because you don't want them to be flat against the wall. Again, that will look like an amateur snapshot, picture, or video. You want to pull it away to provide depth for the subject. Also, while filming indoors, it's very important to unplug anything that's noisy. That's a noisy air condition. It can be a noisy refrigerator or any kind of buzzing sound you want to get rid of on your set. Before yelling action and recording your actors, make sure you record 1 minute of room tone that's dead silence. So tell everybody to be quiet on the set. This room tone will be used in post-production to put under the dialogue to keep a consistent sound of that room. Angles. Angles are very important. You always want to have a wide shot. You always want to have a mid shot and a close-up shot, or sometimes extreme close-up shots. You want to have more things to cut to when you're in post. The more you have to cut to, the better. A great wide shot can also be used as an establishing shot to establish where you are. Some people also use exterior wide shots, panning shots from the sky coming down or sideways or upwards to show people where they are. Blocking is simply working out the details as an actor moves in relation to the camera on set. You can also use blocking to have an actor doing stuff. We call it giving them business, where the actor can smoke a cigarette, he can move around, have a drink of water, take off a sweater, and so forth to make it real. And background actors are very important. You call them extras. They have them walking in the background, doing natural things, because you don't want just two people in front of the camera talking all the time. That doesn't seem very realistic. In the real world, there's always something going on around you. And this goes without saying, actors, please never look into the camera while filming. And make sure your actors are not acting or overacting. Make sure the actors are very natural in their acting. You want to appear like the seasoned actors, the veterans that actually done this for many, many years. People like Robert De Niro, Denzel Washington, Al Pacino. When these guys go on interviews, you can't tell if they're acting in a movie or not because they're pretty much themselves. They sound the same. They make the same facial expressions, you know, and they look natural. You know, on set, off set, they're the same. And that's what you want to capture. Now, I want to say this without contradicting myself. There are actors sometimes who step out of themselves and actually become somebody else, a fictional character, like Johnny Depp did with Pirates of the Caribbean. He also did it with Edward Scissorhands. That's an exception of acting differently. Al Pacino also did it in one of my most favorite movies of all time, the iconic Scarface, where he played a Spanish-speaking drug lord, you know, and he's far from that. So that's a very rare case, but most cases, Al Pacino plays like himself, Al Pacino. You know, the way he interviews is the way he acts, except for this role here. A great tool and a must-have are ND filters or polarizing filters, something that you can keep your shutter speed under control and your 24 frames per second under control and maintain a proper balance of light, not too much overexposures and stuff like that out there in the field. These three hats have three different meanings. I'm going to break them down hat by hat. This hat represents me, the family man, husband, and father. This hat represents me, the musician, producer, singer, songwriter, street promoter. This hat represents me as a filmmaker, feature films, and vlogging. These hats also represent where I'm from, Miami. The cliche, you're a jack of all trades, but somehow I managed to master all three. I'm Bobby Washington, and these are my vlogs.
This sandwich is pretty dry, but it's still bussin'.